It's been 33 years since the inception of Vampire the Masquerade, and tangentially, I've mentioned the game plenty of times on this channel, but today I thought I would answer the question, why? Why the interest? Why does it keep coming up? Why does it have a legacy? And strangely enough, as a person that doesn't really go deep into some gaming mechanics, I think this has some of the most impact, so stick around. Let's talk about it. Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. To get some other things out the way, Friday, I don't know why, my brain was dead. No creativity, couldn't wake up. And as a person that has a channel that is expressly about exercising the creative muscle, I have to say that I didn't listen to my own advice, so I decided to listen to my own advice and go back into the crates, as it were, in a music sense, and pull out some oldies but goodies. Yeah, yeah. 33 years of Vampire. Shy Squad just hit 666 subscribers. Coincidence? Yeah, there's a little bit of that. Yeah, there's no, I don't know if it's the exact anniversary of the date. If I did and it was an accident, oh hell yeah. Yeah, and my we're going back before Requiem, and we're gonna give a shout out to the additions and a little bit of history for those that may not understand where they fit in if you want to get into the vampire world. Because there was a number of things that happened collectively together. Not that they were the first to do it, but White Wolf Games, especially Vampire, did something. It incorporated a number of elements together that separately some game design homes wish they had done individually. And we're going to make some comparisons too to like Blades in the Dark and that kind of thing. So, yeah. Oh, okay, you got it. You got it absolutely right. Yeah. You got it. You got it. Yeah. Nothing like that. No emergencies or anything. Well, actually, my wife was worried about me. She's like, "You do your show all the time," and I was like, I couldn't even. It wasn't a medical thing. I was just like, my brain's dead. What the hell happened? All right, so a little context. There are some games out there. This is a different game. It's Blades in the Dark, and there are some games that exist in the zeitgeist because of what it brings to the gaming community. And Blades in the Dark is one of those. The Blades in the Dark is a highly modified, powered by the Apocalypse game that captured the attention because there are so many elements in it that have captured the attention of game designers that the existence of this game has brought about other elements in other games. Essentially, what I'm referring to as indie games have come into the public mainstream design, and Blades in the Dark is an example of a game that maybe hasn't done it first, but has assembled so many elements of other indie games together in one package that many people refer to Blades in the Dark as a foundational design and game. And not that the game itself isn't fun, which it is, but it has so many elements, things of like the fail forward, succeed with a cost kind of thing. Hasn't done it. It's not the first, but it includes that and flashback mechanisms and quantum equipment and so on and so. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. The use of stress and non-stress, and that it's crazy. There's a lot of things that can be pulled from this. That there are so many elements from this game that you could steal. Well, an homage, let's say, similar to what is the what's the old Art of War book, the Sun Tzu Art of War, that Sun Tzu didn't create the elements in the Art of War, but it was collected together in one treatise, and this is similar to that. And Vampire the Masquerade was one of the first that did this back in 1991, and still going strong, I think, in the cultural zeitgeist. Yeah. Chai says, yeah, referencing Brain Dead, it's mighty impressive that you're able to achieve this regularly at all. You've been going for 2 years now, and it's got to be a 99% success rate. Maybe I'm up in there in the higher 90th percentile, although it's very difficult to. I'm not a marketing expert. Let's put it that way. So, and I'm going to share some digital elements here, but just to show you a little bit of the pedigree of Vampire, I do have the physical. This is my physical copy of the first edition of Vampire: The Dark Ages. So if you'd like to play Vampire mixed with a bit of a more realistic-ish, gothic-toned medieval vampires, where vampires are walking the earth a bit more in the open, not during the day, of course, and where faith and magic have much more strength. This is Vampire: The Dark Ages. I'm only going to show you 3 of the 4 books I have. This is Vampire the Masquerade with the classic green marble and the rose. I believe it was supposed to, the color and this classic rose iconography was supposed to represent like a green marble sarcophagus of sorts and a rose placed upon it. And I have my broken-spined, dog-eared original printing of Vampire the Masquerade and whatnot. And what some people don't realize with Vampire, we're going to go back to go to Drew's comment here about moving on to Requiem. One of the things that White Wolf did in Vampire the Masquerade, and to be honest with you, it pissed a lot of people off, if we can go back in time, is that the game was designed with a meta narrative. So not only were there elements in the game that had a history, why were there vampires, what were the clans up to, and the factions and things going on. As the books were created and the game line expanded, there were hints about the future of the in-world information and how the world was changing. Now, in the meta of the game, within the narrative of Vampire, there was an event known as Gehenna, where there were legends that the most ancient, most powerful vampires will one day rise back up out of torpor. It's like a suspended animation, and devour the world. And they were so ancient and so powerful that draining the blood of mere mortals wasn't enough for them. They would actually consume their own childer, the individuals that were created, the vampires that were created from the bloodlines. And somewhat, Shai Squaw says, was Vampire the first storyteller-based, low-power, low-combat, high-dialogue game that ever got big? Maybe. There was a split in the community for that. Low dialogue, low combat? A little bit. Stories. Yeah. There were some that did walk during the day back in the olden days. They're true. Yeah. You know the older vampire stories, vampires walk during the day. Yep, Dracula. I do remember that in those old stories. In this particular world, it's fuzzy in the past, but in the game mechanic, as player characters, no, you normally couldn't. Yeah, high dialogue, low combat. Ah! Hi. Anyway, in the aspect of the rising of the ancient vampires to devastate the world, there were hints about, would this battle actually happened. And by purchasing the books as they began releasing them, you got more information about it up until the time at which, known as the time of thin blood, where you could play characters whose blood has thinned so much that you were like, you could literally walk around during the day because your blood was so thin of vampire blood that you were basically a human mixed with a little bit, very thin amounts of vampire blood. And those old World of Darkness stories, yeah, yes I am. Those old World of Darkness stories became true in the game meta narrative. So it was pretty interesting that in order to keep you involved in buying more vampire books, they had novels and releases and modules and individual books about all the clans and the factions, and they came out with all the by night books: Chicago by night, Philly by night, uh, Los Angeles by night. There was, and world books and such, that eventually they ended their own game line by bringing about the coming apocalypse, the release Gehenna, the time when the ancient vampires would rise up. They actually wrote rules for it, and they literally canceled their own game line to change the rules. And it was a big deal because so many people, like myself, had invested in so many of the games. Traditional vampire story. So many people had invested in the games that like they were like, wait a minute, did you just end my game line? Like, it was crazy. And Vampire did bring in a lot of like the goth emo. I want to play role-playing games, but I want to act out. I want to have dialogue heavy emotional scenes and not combat. But there was a bit of a split for that as well. Drew says traditional vampire stories in the real world, like I mentioned, the Camarilla or Dracula. Is it Camarilla or Camarilla? I used both when we played vampire to represent like the old world, new world. Like it was like if you were 50 years or younger, you used like very slangish terms, and then if you were like much older than that, you used more of the proper pronunciations and such. Now, when I say there was a split in the game, some people like to play it as a power fantasy, and so they came out. White Wolf came out with a host of books, power fantasy, anime style bucket of D10s if you wanted to be a power gamer. And so I've got my Exalted games, and yes, you could literally buckets of D10s. There was a way to make characters that rolled triple digits in dice in terms of a game that basically had attributes that were like, you can go like 5 or 6 maybe combined together. And yeah, there we go. I can't hold them all up at the same time. Here's Exalted. There's a bit of an anime, pseudo fantasy anime style to it. There's my Exalted book. This is Autochothians that existed in the Exalted universe. There's the here's another one about the Abyssals in the Exalted universe. There's the Dragon Blooded in Exalted universe. But yeah, very anime styled power fantasy. You got, not Camarilla. I read it incorrectly. Lefano's book, Carmilla, or I've tried to mix both of those. Carmilla or Carmilla. I apologize for that. So let me share with you some documentation here in regards to Vampire the Masquerade. And one of the reasons why I'm going to share this out to you is these are the elements of the game that I feel, that my personal opinion, feel that collectively brought this into the zeitgeist, and basically how, strangely enough, how mechanics brought about this emotional people into the tabletop role-playing community, and really had an impact in increasing the amount of people that were into role-playing games at that time. Drew says it's even older than Dracula and got some lesbian vampires. So of course I'm a fan. There you go. Yeah. And Salieth says a Vampire Masquerade stream? Yes, there is. Now, if you're deep into it, this may not be for you. But if you don't mind me sharing out some information, it's all right. So we're going to start here with the Vampire the Masquerade character sheet. I know that you're like, character sheet? I thought we were going to talk about like a drama and things of that nature. But we're going to start out with the character sheet, this classic character sheet. You're not going to be able to find too many details on this, but I'm going to zoom in on it. This is the classic. This is one of many classic vampire character sheets. While the borders have been changed based on the game you play, the central layout is very common amongst white wolf players of any type, whether it's vampire, werewolf, wraith, changeling, mage, whatever. And at the top of the character sheet, and we're going to focus more heavily on the top and the bottom of the character sheet, but the top of the character sheet is your classic, name and the player, the chronicle, or the name of the adventuring, and whatnot. But there is something gamified about the very middle of this, and it's the nature and demeanor portion of this. On the character sheet, they did a carrot instead of stick version of alignment. And back 33 years ago plus, and up until today, there were many arguments about alignment and how alignment applies, and you need to play your character, and this is what my character would do. And in Vampire, they went with a nature and demeanor mechanism. So they have a list of traits. I'll show you some of those lists of what those traits are, and you could mix and match them. You would pick one as your nature and one as your demeanor. Your nature is more permanent. It's who you are inside, even if you don't believe it, but it is how your character behaves internally. Your nature very rarely changes. Your demeanor is what you show to the outside world, and your demeanor could change based on successes and failures and traumas and things of that nature. Also, you have a concept for your character, basically a one word or a short statement as to what kind of character you are. Are you a deformed hermit living in the sewers, or are you a rich debutante or something like that? And then off to the right of this character sheet, you had clan, generation, and your sire. I'm going to increase the size of this so we can get, this is from my from the PDF of the 20th anniversary edition. I didn't get the original. I had always thought about getting the digital version of my original book, but the 20th anniversary edition does compile everything from the very first edition. So I was like, it's one and the same. Now, here's the second part of the character sheet that I think was very interesting and very cool. We'll get back to nature and demeanor in a minute mechanically. But in Vampire the Masquerade, you had classic stats. And when I say classic stats, I don't mean like strength, dex, or whatever, which it is here. We have strength, dexterity, and stamina. We have our social stats. We have our mental stats. But this 9-point arrangement, very common amongst all of the games, and made it very simple. Oh, are we performing a physical stat? Great. Are we performing a physical action? I know where that's at for new players. If I'm performing something social, I go to the middle. If it's a mental figuring out, an analytic kind of thing, then I'm going to go to the other side. Very easy to understand with 9 stats, basically a 9-stat brick. And if you can tell, they refer to these as dots. So you automatically gain 1 dot or 1 die, and it goes up to 5. That's the low numbers of dice that you use. Theoretically, I'll get to some of that. That's where I talked about the gaming power gaming part of it was very low as well. So if you need to explain this to a new player, you only used 10-sided dice. And how many did you use? Well, we're doing a physical thing. I want to break the door or snap the handcuffs or whatever. Oh, we're definitely going to use strength. It's easy to find it. Physical stat, boom, go find it. I've got 3 dice in it. I'm going to grab those 3 dice. And none of the abilities attributes above were linked specifically to abilities below. So could you make a stamina plus knowledge computer test? Yes. Yes, you very much could. Could you make a charisma plus here we go, politics check, charisma plus performance check, or a charisma plus streetwise check? Yes, all 3 could happen at any moment in the game. And it lent itself to negotiating with the storyteller, which is what the game master in this game was called, a storyteller. Hey, I want to walk through the crowd, sneak through the crowd. So is that a dexterity plus oh, here we go. Is that dexterity plus stealth? Maybe it's more dexterity, but also etiquette by making sure you don't disturb people. Or is it manipulation or charisma plus stealth? Or is it subterfuge? Is it like dexterity plus subterfuge or whatever? And you could make the case that all of those are true. And that was one of the things that this is a legacy thing that has gone on into many games, where we're not going to tie a specific attribute, strength, dex, charisma, perception, intelligence, to a specific skill. We're going to separate them. And if you can make the case that the 2 should work together, sure. Now, does it mean players are trying to, manipulate it so they're using their highest abilities during that time? Of course. But like I said, if you only have a maximum of 5 up the top and a maximum of 5 down below, you're not rolling that many dice. You're not really breaking the game at all. That was really cool. Let me get in. We'll get to the bottom of this character sheet. But I want to see some of your comments. Yeah, should I say obfuscation to walk through a crowd? That's exactly what that is. Here we go. Awesome, must read. RPG Radio says we played as X-Men with fangs. Yeah, it was very easy to play as dark underworld superheroes in this game. Very much so. Very, like I said, there was a bit of a split, and this game came out in '91. I was a little young, and it was 33 years plus, and we played with some people that were power gamers, and it was fun playing with them too, I think. Saliath says nature and demeanor I think fit World of Darkness. He says WOD is World of Darkness for those who don't know. I think it fits World of Darkness well, as often characters are not being fully honest with one another, including other player characters, and I would dare say including with themselves. We're going to get into the nature and demeanor part of it, because I said one lent itself to the other, and all of these little elements I'm talking about are fragments. They are foundations that collectively held the zeitgeist, and we see this commonly in other games separately. Vampire just happened to put these together. Drew says, as much as I enjoyed X-Men, superhero style play in the World of Darkness always drove me mad. See, I have to agree with you there as well. However, I always thought of doing a parody. Actually, fight the Antediluvians as supervillains. Yeah. I still have a version for my own system today, even though I removed the connections to the World of Darkness. Yes, it was very much the Antediluvians, the Methuselahs, what was the other name for the ancients? There was Cain, Antediluvians, Methuselahs. Oh, there was another name for the elder types. But Yes, the NPCs that had 10 plus dice rolling. They were maxed out. They were the gods, if you will, of the world of darkness. Yeah, obfuscation to walk through a crowd. Well, we're not going to get too deep into the disciplines, but yes, obfuscation is the ability to not be seen, and that was one category of a number of disciplines that vampires could use. So here we have at the bottom of the character sheet, we have ourselves. You have a list of disciplines, and you can see there were to the left of this character sheet, there were not there were 5 dots and a number of lines. You would fill them in, and those dots represented the number of dice. You would have to reference the book, but you could write those disciplines down, and if you had 3 dots in something, you had the ability at the dot number 1 and then level 2 and level 3. So if you had 3 dots, you had the 3 capabilities of that ability, of that power, or whatever it was. In the middle, we have our backgrounds, and again, using dots. But the important part is over to the right of the character sheet, where you had your virtues. Now, the game started out with only conscience, self-control, and courage, but as other books came out, and if you were with other clans, and I'm trying to be very general here, clans, or you lived your life as a vampire differently, instead you might have conviction, instinct, and courage. But it's still listed over here in the virtues. And there was a mechanical effect on your character sheet of having conscience, self-control, and courage as a numerical value. And what was interesting about vampire is that you had capabilities, you had stats basically on your character sheet that were in conflict with each other. So the more one went up or went down, it would affect how many dice you could use somewhere else. You literally had elements on your character numerically, and you had to weigh the cost effect analysis of, do I want to do this thing because I know I'm going to get more dice and more success in one thing, but it's going to reduce my ability somewhere else. And that was placed in the player's hands. So your virtues, conscious, self-control, courage, or whether it's conscious and conviction, your self-control or instinct, and your courage, had a direct impact on your humanity or path here in the very middle, as well as your willpower towards the bottom here, how much willpower you had. Willpower was like a fate points, hero points, inspiration, moxie. You burned willpower to gain automatic successes. So the more willpower you had, the greater your successes. And willpower was a measure of having 2 of these virtues added together. But also on this character sheet, right at the very bottom, we have ourselves blood pool. And your blood pool was used to power your vampiric abilities. Your blood pool would heal your health bar. Your blood pool, the blood that was in your body that you drained from the mortals and animals in other places, magically you could acquire, raise your blood pool. You would burn your blood pool, and depending on the age of how thin or thick your blood was from the original vampire, you could burn more blood per turn. But the problem was, if you burned the blood out of your blood pool, becoming this powerhouse, this raging thing, monster, this superhero I say superhero. I'll explain to you about the superheroism. Your blood pool would get so high that you would burn it off, but it also meant that you would risk your humanity, and it meant that you would risk how many dice you could roll for your conscience, conviction, self-control, instinct, or courage. So the lower your blood pool, the lower the amount of dice you would roll on that. And unfortunately, with vampires are basically all addicted. They're all addicted to blood. And there was the beast inside, and if you couldn't control the beast inside of you, it meant that you lost control of your character, and it meant that you would run in fear or go berserk or act in a manner you didn't want to act in. So you had literal statistics on your character sheet you had to be aware of if you were playing the game completely, that you had hard choices, and sometimes those choices were taken out of your hands. Now, at the very, 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 very bottom of the character sheet, there is many of the character sheets, not all of them, many of the character sheets from the official license materials would tell you how to fill out everything above. So your attributes, you would divide 7 points, 5 points, and 3 points amongst your attributes. Then for your abilities, for one category you put 13 points, and then 9 points, and then 5 points, and then you have 3 points of discipline. It explained to you how many dots you would fill out. You could make a character, if you really knew the game, you could make a character in 5 to 10 minutes without really looking at the book if you kind of knew what you wanted. You would have to look at the book to pick like disciplines and backgrounds, but for the most part, it was pretty easy. Like even NPCs were very easy to make. And if you did it long enough, you would remember the 7-5-3 split amongst attributes. You would remember the 13-9-5 split amongst abilities, and then you just keep it moving, and so on. And they actually explained, for example, talents were something that everybody could really do. You just most people had a natural affinity for it. Skills required a little bit of training, but also it's a combination of learning a thing and also being good at it. And the knowledges were basically things that you don't know this unless somebody actually taught it to you. People don't normally know finance unless you learn it, or how to use computers unless you learn it. It's very rare that you would have anybody just walk up to a computer who's never seen one before and go, yeah, I know how to do that. But when it comes to over in talents like being alert or athletic, being empathic, or being intimidating and such, it's pretty much a natural thing. So that's the character sheet. Remember above when I talked about nature and demeanor? Nature and demeanor has extreme impact on your willpower. So when you burn your willpower, like using inspiration, or what are some newer games coming up? Hero points, opportunity die. I was trying to find something that was very, very recent. Blades in the Dark uses deal with the devil or stress to increase how many dice you have or your successes. And in this game, there is willpower. The opportunity die is from the Cosmere RPG from Brandon Sanderson. But how do you regain your willpower? Well, it depends on if you are acting within your nature and demeanor. And let's see, do I have a list? Nature? Nope. Here we go. Sorry. Trying to plan this out, a little difficult to do that. So here we have in the 20th anniversary, personality archetypes, nature and demeanor. And nature and demeanor is the carrot, not the stick. So you don't need to act out your characters. You know, players are like, I shouldn't be handcuffed. Well, no, you can play whatever, you can act in any way you want, but you gain a benefit if you portray your character with your nature and demeanor. So can you break how you normally act in this game? Of course you can. Of course you can break the structure. But if you act more towards your nature and demeanor, you regain willpower. And so you got a benefit by, this is what my character would do. And it also gave a reason why in game, maybe your character's a little bit of, we other players understand why your character's annoying, because you were trying to recover willpower, which means you're playing in character, which means that you may act that in a way that's not in your best interest, which may not be in our best interest as other players, but we understand where it's coming from. And so you're literally to play in the game, you may act in a way that is not towards your best interest to get a mechanical benefit later on in the game. And carrot, not stick. So I'm going to increase the, let's go down to a single pager and increase the size of this. Boom, and move down here. Oh, here we go. So under nature and demeanor, it says, everyone plays a role, often several, every day. Every individual displays multiple layers of personality, varying from the contrived to the sincere. Each of these roles defines how we interact with the people and places around us, and we choose which parts of ourselves we wish to show. It is the same with kindred. Kindred, the polite way of referring to vampires and amongst themselves. The concept of nature and demeanor corresponds directly to the different masks we wear when we interact. A vampire character's nature is her true self, her innermost being, the person she truly is. It is dangerous to show this, though, as it lets others know who we are and what is important. Thus, characters have demeanors, faces they show to the world. By choosing how we relate to the world, we're able to choose how it relates to us as well as we guide the responses others give us. And there are a number of these. So we have like bon vivant. The bon vivant knows that life and unlife is shallow and meaningless. As such, the bon vivant decides to enjoy her time on Earth. The bon vivant is not necessarily irresponsible, rather, she is simply predisposed to having a good time along the way. And it goes on, it gives you a little description. But right at the bottom of every one of these choices is, it tells you how to regain willpower. Regain a point of willpower whenever you truly enjoy yourself and can fully express your exultation. At the storyteller's option, a particularly fabulous revel may yield multiple willpower points. And it was the carrot. It was, listen, if you play your character, here's a reward for doing. You were literally telling everyone, including the storyteller, I am portraying my character. I want my willpower point for doing so, even if it goes against. Even if I'm trying to be stealthy, but I'm a bon vivant, I'm going to exult and expose everyone. And someone may say, I can't believe you went to the nightclub and started a party, but there's a reason for it. And mind you, you can mix and match there's a long list of these. I'm just going to page through some of them. You can see some of the titles here, and you can mix and match them. Is this your nature or is it your demeanor? If it's your demeanor, this is kind of what you show to the outside world. But if it's your nature, it's what's on the inside. And so you got autocrat, capitalist, child, caregiver, a celebrant, a competitor. Mind you, the list started out small. Some of these you may not have seen if you played the game, depending on which version of it, because they combine them all together in V20. The chameleon, the conformist, the conniver and dabbler, and it goes on and on and on. Like, here we go, creep show. You strive to shock and disgust those around you with gratuitous acts and obsessively evil mannerisms. You regain a point of willpower whenever someone recoils from you in horror or otherwise reacts in fear. Does that mean you may engage in something and reveal yourself to the world when you really shouldn't be? Yes, that is very much true. The curmudgeon, the deviant, and it goes on. These are really cool. All right. What else about this game? What other aspects of Vampire really held the zeitgeist, like in its design, in its portrayal, in its method of how the world exists and why it captured the attention 33 years later? And I would say that what you see here now on the screen are the rules the players have to follow when playing Vampire the Masquerade. Now, when I say the rules the players have to follow, guaranteed your players are going to say F no. They're going to throw up their middle fingers and go, this is bullshit. I'm not doing this. And the game designed the world. This is all meta narrative. The game designed the world so that there were shackles on the players, that the players themselves walk around in the world as a vampire with all this power and all this freedom and all this desire to engage in decadence and gothicness and whatnot, and then said, oh yeah, by the way, you can't do that stuff. Oh no, I know you're immortal and you're walking around and you feel like a badass, but I'm gonna let you know this world is telling you you can't do it. And they did that on purpose to always set up drama, conflict, something to push against for the player characters. And these are known as traditions from the classic organized crime families of the vampires, that all the more powerful vampires in this undead world abide by. I'm putting an asterisk because they're pretty much liars, right? It's do as I say, not as I do. But this is a list of the traditions. There is the first tradition, the Masquerade. You must hide who you are from the public. The second tradition is domain. You must give respect to all those in power above you, especially those who control the domain you're walking in. The third tradition is progeny. You don't have the ability to create other vampires. They are your your children, and you are responsible for their behavior. And you don't even have the ability socially or politically to create your own vampires that are below you. The fourth tradition is the accounting. You are responsible for your behavior and the behavior of those below you, kind of talking about the progeny and accounting go together. The fifth tradition is hospitality. You don't have the ability to walk around like you think you do. You must abide by the rules and regulations of the rulers of the city that you're in. And the last one is the sixth tradition of destruction. If you break those rules, you can be destroyed. If you attack other vampires and drain them, if you commit diablere or diablere or whatever, however you think it's pronounced, I think all pronunciations are correct. If you drain the blood of another vampire, you can be destroyed. Guaranteed. Listen, hypocritical bullshit rules, yes, all of this. It has been described as organized crime by other channels. I've always described it as high school. You're the new kid that goes to high school, and you have the different cliques and the teachers and the student faculty and blah blah blah, right? And it's like high school, and you're rolling your eyes like, fuck, I don't even want to be part of this. And it's like, no, you think you're not part of it, but everybody else is going to put you and make you part of it. And that's some of the beauty of the world of Vampire. You get to play, and here I'm going to go back to my reference about being a superhero. I'm going to get to your comments in just 2 seconds. I made the comment about being a superhero. Vampire was one of the games that came about where you're making a character that specifically is a badass. When you make a vampire character, the game tells you, no, you're better than the mortal people around you. You're a badass. You're faster, stronger, tougher, ostensibly immortal. You have powers other mortals do not have. You're a badass. And then it tells you at the same time, it licks its fingers, smacks you on the back of your bare naked neck, and goes, by the way, you need to behave. You need to stay in your place. You aren't, I know you think you're a badass, but there's people and powers out there that are better than you, and they're going to tell you what to do. And those two things, the meta narrative of the game, are in conflict with each other on purpose. So no matter how much of a player you want to play and go, well, I just want to be a murder hobo, you're going to quickly make enemies and quickly make a problem for yourself. If you try to turtle up, you can't even do it in this game. Yeah. My okay, I'm going to butcher your avatar name here, but I'm going to apologize up front. Sinister Intent says, my friends and I are in a multi-year V5 game set in the Dark Ages. That's all. I love Dark Ages. He used 2 Chronicles to be universal ones, and then had another 2 that were specific to each of our roads. Chronicle Tenants. Oh, it corrected it with Chronicle Tenants. It's Dark Ages is a great game too. Now in Dark Ages, you can walk openly a bit more because people believe, rightly so, that vampires and ghosts and monsters exist at that time. But it's also dangerous to walk around in the Dark Ages because those powerful entities also are walking around, and there's a lot more magic and faith, like I said before. Seo says, willpower in particular is a good measure of that sort of, where's it go? There we go. That sort of cost-benefit design. It can be used for auto successes, but it also measures current mental fortitude and resistance. I agree with you absolutely, and you summarized it a whole lot better than I could. That that cost-benefit design is, hey player, it's up to you. It's your fault if you burn all your willpower. It's up to you if you burn your blood pool, because later on in the game you may not be as successful because of your lack of courage or mental fortitude, because of the beast literally physically trying to come out of you as your teeth start to grow and your eyes turn bloodshot and your skin turns pale. There is an actual mechanical effect, a physical effect in the world, a true measure of your character lose yourself to the music, right? Yeah, things like that. Drew says, I always like to set up my nature and demeanor in juxtaposition. It's fun to do that. Yeah. Had so much fun in a Dark Ages game with my character being a survivor by nature and martyr as demeanor. You know what? You're absolutely right. And like as Drew is bringing up, if you put your nature and demeanor in juxtaposition, we know people in real life that their nature is one thing and their demeanor is another one. Imagine being a brutalistic individual as your demeanor, but you're a caregiver as your nature. That's weird, right? Like you're violent and rude, but you internally nature, you're a caregiver. So maybe you're just tough on people. You don't know how to say the right things, or you are an abusive individual, but internally you would do anything to protect them from everyone else. Maybe you're a criminal underlord, criminal mastermind that, like, no, you engage in criminality, but you give out gifts. You do a lot of the carrot and sticking, right? You're like, I'm gonna pay you a lot of money to do this thing. I'm gonna make your life better. But if you don't do it, I'm gonna punish you severely, right? And you're like, no, I'm truly gonna make you a millionaire, but cross me and see what happens. There's a lot of ways to play with it too, as well, with the nature and demeanor part of it, and that's kind of the fun part of the game as well, and dramatic and role play. I will sometimes have them be the same if a character. Yeah. I'm sorry about that. Yes, you can pick a character who has the same nature and demeanor, or very similar natures and demeanors. I wouldn't suggest picking the exact same. You can, but having similar natures and demeanors is one thing, because basically you're wearing your emotions on your sleeve. But that can be kind of fun too, because some people will assume you're a liar and go like, no, really, that's me. Yeah. But anyways, Seo says, saying to someone else in the chat, I will sometimes have them be the same if a character isn't very deceptive about their intentions. That doesn't mean other vampires won't think they are lying, though. Yep. Damn, why did I read that? Yeah, exactly. Like, wait, you're actually telling the truth? Other vampires are like, that's really weird. You can't be telling the truth. That's like, what's the character? Amos. Amos from The Expanse is that kind of character. Like he says what he means, and doesn't beat around the bush. Yeah. For me, it's more about internal struggle than being deceptive. Maybe that is me being a theater kid. I found such things interesting to play out. You are not wrong, and both are true at the same time. And what I mean by that, for your comment, Drew, is in-game world, that character may be lying to themselves. You are specifically playing a character that's about internal conflict, but that vampiric or mortal character, ghoulish character, what have you, they may be lying to themselves, fighting against their own nature by wearing the mask of different demeanors. Like you had a character that had a martyrdom as their nature, and they might be trying to get out of that part of their, portray themselves differently, but really internally they are a martyr, and that's fun. That's really fun. So let's go into some other things that Vampire the Masquerade has had along with this. So we have I talked about the traditions, And mind you, the entire world of Vampire the Masquerade is about the conflict of these traditions. Now, mind you, these traditions existed under the auspices of a political system known as the Camarilla or the Camarilla. And in the Camarilla is basically the rules for vampires to keep surviving in this world, because they remember back in the day where there was the Inquisitions and things like that that were out to destroy the vampires, as well as the rumors and myths of these antediluvian vampires that everybody keeps talking about that will never rise and whatnot. Damn old boomers, they don't know what they're talking about, right? But in addition to this, we love to have ourselves we love to have ourselves the idea of cliques, gangs, who you belong to, of different sects. And so there are lots of social distinctions. Now remember, in the vampire games, and when I say vampire games, mage, werewolf, wraith, all of these games, when you make your character and go into this world, in some way, shape, or form, you are related to a faction. And that automatically puts you in opposition to other factions. Now, you don't have to, you as a player, you get to make up your own mind. And I love players who are like, I don't want to belong to any of this. It doesn't matter. Other people have opinions about you that are small-minded and evil and powerful, and they're always going to try to draw you into their bullshit. And that is part of the game. So, this game involves a lot of sex and clan, S-E-C-T-S, sects, not the dirty. There are clans, there are bloodlines, there's lots of traditions, and all of that automatically puts you in conflict with every other entity in Vampire the Masquerade. And you as player characters can gather together. And here's sometimes this is something that happens cyclically in our tabletop role-playing community. And that is, I want to play an evil campaign. It already exists. I talk about cyberpunk as one type of evil campaign. I've talked about Blades in the Dark as playing another evil campaign where you're playing criminals. And in Vampire the Masquerade, technically as vampires, just by your existence, you're going to be committing very many evil acts. You may try not to, but this game will push you to commit more and more evil acts. And you're playing an evil campaign, and guess what? You really don't want to act against your own player characters. You don't want to backstab your own players. Why? Because there's so many other things out there that are against you. You will want to use your other player characters as a vanguard against all the things after you. So here we have the different, what I'm paging through here are the different domains of the dead. These are like the titles of the different entities that are going to cause problems for the player characters. The Prince of the City, the Archbishops in the Sabbath, or sometimes called Sabbath, but it's the Sabbat as well. Barons in the Anarch movement, which are all the anarchists. So even if you want to play an anarchist, they got their own rules. You're not as anarchistic as we are, you know, that kind of thing. Presenting someone's head to a prince. All the mythology, the generations. Mind you, when you make up your character, you're going to be a particular generation. And you start out as, of course, the 13th generation. And yes, you can use your points to not be that young of a vampire, to have that thin of blood. You can be 11th generation vampire or 9th generation vampire. There are books that allow you to be not just 13th, but 14th and even 15th generation vampires. And 16th and beyond, they kind of don't even count it. Your blood is so thin. And that depends on how many How many vampires were before you became a vampire, as well as the vampire that maybe created you in the first place. And then they talk about werewolves and hunters and the coming Gehenna and reaching Golconda and the Wild Was and all the lexicon and the ghosts and all that kind of stuff. So that's one part. Let me show you something else, because wait a minute. Here we go. Woo, there we have the clans. You gotta pick a clan, and some of the clans, they're a little bit restrictive. They assholes, yes. Cool abilities, and to learn from them, and the disciplines you get if you pick that clan, also primo. So again, I want to play a character, but I don't want to abide by the rules, which means you're automatically even in conflict with your own clan if you don't follow them. Also, a built-in rule, not built-in, built-in service to making stories. There's always going to be somebody else, some group, person, individual, someone from your background you care about, a rival, an enemy, an adversary, a loved one, a family member, whatever, that's going to pull you in another direction. And your decisions or indecisions are always going to have an effect on the game. And that is a part of this game that I think, especially in indie games, and sometimes you see fading away in more generic systems. It's like, well, what do I do in this game? And in Vampire, it's like, well, guess what? If you don't do anything, other people are going to try to make you do something. And if you don't move, if you don't move in this world, the world will move you. And I really appreciate that in Vampire. And that mentality, whether we think about it or not, has extended to other gaming systems. And this has captured our attentions so much. I feel Vampire really thrums when it's very personal. Yes, there's a lot of meta knowledge about what's happening around the world and ancient prophecies and all that, but I think the game really shines when you make it very, very personal. And this is just some fun artwork, some full color, which is rare. A lot of it is black and white art. The black and white art is excellent. And these are many of the clans. I think the first primary 13 clans, and then of course there was so many other clans and bloodlines and whatnot. Now the difference between a clan and a bloodline is thin. So a clan is more about their behaviors, and the bloodline is the blood that flows in you. Are the two related? Yes. So, but is it automatic? No. When you play a character in this, of course, every clan has their benefit and their limitation, and it is mechanical. So every clan has a limitation. The Malkavians here always suffer from some kind of mental affliction, what we would normally call insanity or being crazy. Every one of the La Sombra, one of my favorite, is they control shadows, and their discipline is that they cast no reflections. It's the classic can't be seen in a mirror kind of thing. And as players, we played with the idea of, can they be caught on, can a camera take a picture of them, and can they be caught on videotape? That's up to you. We always said it was blurred out, but Nosferatu, of course, are the ones that are always hideously deformed. The Ravnos are controlled by their vices, basically, theft and seduction and things like that. Toreador are the artists, and so on. Mind you, there's other channels that have literally taken more than an hour going over specific clans. So there's a lot of these clans, and there's so many of them. The spell casting, Tremere, the body shifting, changing. I pronounce it Zemise, whatever. Zemeski. How do you pronounce it? I don't know. All of them are appropriate pronunciations depending on where you're from. We always in the old world used we pronounced it arrogantly, the Zemise. But if you were from the city, you're like, I'm Zemis, the Ventru and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, um, the clans. And lastly, let's see if we got here. Here we have. Did I show this? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Last part. Talking about the virtues, and in the game, there's the virtues were normally conscience, self-control, and courage. Yes, there was like instinct and other things, but essentially they were your mental faculties and how you gained your willpower. Now, one of the things that many players ignored in many ways was humanity. And this experience was right before this. Sorry. I thought I had it in order. I don't have it here. Sorry. Okay, forget all that. I'm gonna put up let's put some artwork up here. We'll go back to you. Not my old ugly mug. So one of the things that I feel was very pivotal in Vampire was something known as humanity. And mind you, as the game expanded, they were generally known as paths. And your humanity, which is a path of humanity, and there were other paths were what rules do you it was similar to an alignment system. What rules do you abide by to keep the beast out of your system, to keep your addictions away, basically addiction to blood? What are the rules that you operate by? And that became your path. And you didn't want to break the tenets of the path that you were on, because if you did, you would fall into basically losing control of your character. You would run in fear. You would drain someone's blood when you didn't want to. You would expose your vampiric nature. Most commonly, fire, daylight, faith and holy people, places, and things. And did I say fire? Yeah, fire, daylight, and faith. You could mix in magic in that. And low blood, having your blood pool low, would elicit the beast in coming out of you. So an example would be, you're just a vampire, you're walking around in the evening or something, and a big burst of fire comes out. Maybe it's, I don't know, a gas main breaks, or someone lights a cigarette near you or whatever. And that very much could, I tend to pronounce it Zimichi. She? Oof, I don't know. Actually, let me put this. I'm gonna put this back up here and get the just to mess with people, because I know us in the community tend to argue about pronunciations, but I'm guilty of putting the improper emphasis on the incorrect syllable all the time. So, yeah. Are you? I'm not getting any of that on my end about the buffering and the. I hope the sound and all that stuff. Yeah, YouTube. The reason why the show doesn't start at exactly 6 a.m. is because the minute I log in, all my stuff spikes to the red, and then I wait for it to calm down. So as I'm setting up all my assets, I wait for it so I get into the green. So that has a lot to do with it too. Laeth says also technically you can play a Caitiff, but that is in and of itself has its own restrictions. Yeah. For those who don't know, Caitiff is and I know on pronunciation, Caitiff. Satif. Anyway, you could play someone who's not part of any clan, and that's not really a good thing. You really don't want to do that, because that means you don't belong to anyone. Like I said, Vampire is like high school, and when you don't belong to anyone, you don't have allies, and you're also treated that way too. And when it comes to, today is a big idea. There's a big idea about problematic tabletop role-playing games, and Vampire is very much one of those games. It deals with a lot of unrealistic, unfortunate, diabolical prejudices and hates amongst immortals. Yeah, yeah, they're all, like I said, a-holes to the core completely. Are you in this game? Will you be misjudged? Of course. Are you living with a thing inside of you that you don't want to have come out? Yes. Are you portraying a character that is trying to live their best life and doesn't want to be bothered by other people who keep pestering them to get involved in a tribalistic war or whatever? Yes. Are there hunters out there who want to kill you simply because you exist as a vampire? Yes. All that is true and more. And I love the game. And I think the game's legacy lends itself to why people are drawn to it. And there's a bit of, listen, there's something in us, many of us, that likes to be the underdog and to be the hero of our own story when everybody else is bullshitting, and we love it. Sayo says, to illustrate on the factions thing, in one of the games currently in our coterie is publicly in favor of the local prince and privately working to subvert him. Yes, a coterie is a group of vampires from divergent backgrounds all gathered together for their personal goals. A coterie could be assembled by a outside presence, like a prince or other leadership, to put different groups together, the player characters, together to operate. Yes. Could they be doing it secretly? Yes. And could you be fronting like you're in support of Prince and secretly working behind their back? Hell yeah. Hells yeah. Oh man. Yeah, well, dark. I missed a bunch of comments. Dark Ages also has those traditions even before the Camarilla was founded, and as well as before the Inquisition was established. Yes, this is a V20. I didn't pay. Okay, let's see if I can find the other ones here. It might be in another book. It might be in another. Oh, okay. I see how they did it. Yeah, V20 has a number of. It combines a number of the other books, and let me see if I could very quickly find it here. Okay, these are all this. Okay, the other bloodlines, experience, storytelling, animals. Yeah, it's not in. It's like a almost 600-page book, and I know they have all the disciplines, but there are other bloodlines, and they show them out here. Let's see if I can find obfuscate. These all the disciplines, quietus. There's so many of those. The powers the vampires have. It's crazy. I think it goes up to level 9. Those are the rules, systems, and the drama. What are the other bloodlines? Is it towards the back of the book? I'm pretty sure. Oh, this is funny. Right here. Rewards of Diablere or Diablere? I don't know which part. Drinking the blood of another vampire. And it tells you what abilities you can gain if you do that. Even though the rules, the meta rules, tell you in Vampire Society you shouldn't do it, you can. You can. You may not want to, but you can, right? But there's also the perils of it. Many things like, can other vampires sense that you've done it before? Do you become addicted? What happens when you drain the blood of other beings other than vampires, like werewolves and magi and whatnot? Yeah, all of that and more. All of that and more. And it's pretty cool. Here it is. There's the morality system, page the 300. So the morality system here is about humanity and the effects of humanity, and when your humanity level is high enough, some people can't even detect that you are a vampire. Having a high enough humanity allows you to not be afraid of light and holy symbols and sunlight and things like that, because some of new players may be thinking, well, what do I need humanity for? And it does allow you to roll more dice when you are being in social interactions. When your humanity is too low, most people are going to be a little bit scared of you. You're a little bit of a psychopath or sociopath. And you're like, why? I don't understand. You know? And yes, there are alternate paths of enlightenment, and there's a number of paths, and they all have different names: a path of blood, path of bones, path of Cain. All of it pretty dark. And remember, this is a game that during its inception, lots of black, lots of leather, lots of oiled cloth long coats. Yeah, definitely. And often try to tell you about like the different types of stories. Do you want to tell stories about internal conflicts? Do you want to tell stories about faith and religion? Do you want to tell stories about ghosts or different people's backgrounds? Here are the bloodlines. There we go. Here we go. And mind you, again, these are intricacies in the game, so you don't need to have these, but you can include them. These are the devil worshipping Balai, whatever. Things like that. The mutated blood brothers, funny. And again, it can get pretty deep, and there are many people that yes, you can play a gargoyle, yes, and there are many people who know so much about the lore of this game. So Vampire also scratched the itch of the lore hounds, the intellectual property gatekeepers, if you will, of who knows what, when, and what thing happened at what time, and who drained who, and who killed. And mind you, if you purchase the books in order and were in the game, there were some stories that were specifically contradictory to each other. So you could read in one that one clan was wiped out, and then in another book, oh, it's a book about that clan, and you're like, well, if they don't exist, why'd you make a write-up about it? And they're like, oh no, they're still around. And you're like, really? Wait, what? Yeah, all kinds of things. Also, for those who don't know, a mortal or mortal living being that drinks the blood of a vampire, it becomes a ghoul. I had a prince of Philadelphia, because it was my hometown, and the prince there had hellhounds. He had dogs that drank of his blood, and they were very loyal to him. And one of the things was the prince was always watching, because there were these rabid dogs that were always running around the city, and one of the most important organizations were the dog catchers. And the anarchs ran the veterinary services, and the dog catchers always trying to catch the dogs of the prince and stuff. Anyway, they were doing it on purpose because they would never win, but yeah, it was fun. But yeah, look, I mean, so many choices, so much of it. True Bruja versus the True Bruja. Mind you, everyone talks about the Camarilla or the Camarilla, and the Camarilla is like the organized crime family of vampires. The opposite of that is known as the Sabbat or the Sabbat, and the Sabbat are the ones that are like Frost in the Blade movie. We're vampires. There's no need for us to hide. We are better than mortals, and we are going to act out our true natures. And the only reason that they even have any organization is that they give of their blood collectively, and they drink each other's blood so that they're blood bound to each other, which is another thing that happens in the games. It's crazy. There's a lot of different. Oh man, you go through. I mean, I could make the whole channel about vampire and never reach all of the 5 days a week, an hour a week, every day, and still not reach all of the additions in the game. And as time has gone on, each edition has added to or changed the lore. Because Vampire the Requiem came out after the end of Gehenna, when all the antediluvians came up and destroyed all the vampires of the time of Thin Blood and all. Yeah, and so mechanically and even financially, they changed the game based on in-game world events, which is kind of strange and cool and dangerous and was upsetting. And even till today, with Onyx Path Publishing and other things, a lot of this game material has spread amongst other owners, from the writers to who owns the rights to things. And so, so anyway, guys, thank you so much for allowing me to show off a bunch of this stuff for Vampire and why I think Vampire and the entire White Wolf line, to be honest with you, has lasted this long. Why it is that I think that it just got here. I mean, it just held our attention. It says I tried to play a Salubri is difficult. For those who don't know, the Salubri are vampires. Let me see. Trying to make this simple. They are an oracle, meditative vampire clan bloodline trying to bring about Golconda, an ascendance to go above and beyond the dominating the beast that is inside themselves and helping other vampires to do the same. They were wiped out, by the way. Here, work behind someone's back sounds like a Tremere thing to do. Yeah, I see you there being prejudicial. and you know, it's like, well, would they do that? Of course they would. But are you stereotyping vampires? Hell yeah. Yeah. I didn't see your comment there, Sayo. I didn't see your comment. Sorry about that. Actually, let me put an image up here, because there we go. At least something fun to look at. All right. Too much humanity and you become more human than even humans are. That's true. There's actually, the higher your humanity level, the more difficult it is to even stay there. I remember back in the day, we had a lot of arguments about, and I had to point this out, that a player once said, well, it's unfair. If my character has to drink the blood of human beings, I could never get my humanity to its highest level and stay there. And I went, yeah, that's the point. He's like, well, that's not fair. And I was like, but that's the point. Yeah, but that's wrong. I said, no, it's not wrong. It's not fair. we went back and forth. He just didn't understand. He's like, but that's the point of the game. Yeah. Yeah, but often written in a way that it isn't so known how clear something happened, really. Yeah. You can play a gargoyle? Awesome. What I don't know could fill volumes. I'm with you on that one. I am with you on that one as well. Yeah. Now, mind you, the gargoyles aren't exactly like the animated cartoon TV show, but they sure as hell were in my world. Yeah, you can play a gargoyle. It's crazy. But it's fun, too. There is a bloodline I tried to use. The Salubri are the compassion vampires that is sometimes alien to others. That's why they were wiped out. They were too nice. That's like the nice kid in high school that gets his ass beat, and then everyone's like, why'd the family move away? Yeah, that's what that was. So everyone in Congress drank vampire blood and became a ghoul. It all makes sense now. Too true. Human are cattle to feed on. Ouch. Say Leah says, and the contradictions are even larger if you look at the different splats and character types. The trait is a huge lore thing in werewolf, but basically unmentioned in vampire. Yeah. By the way, Saya was mentioning the contradictions in the lore. So in the splat books, and mind you, I have a shelf that wants to bend because there's so many books. If you read all the splat books, and there are Reddit pages and wikis and things like that that detail events that in another splat book by the same game maker says like that event never even really happened. And my point is, I love that. That's a feature. That's not a problem, that's a feature. It means that, like real history, some say, others believe, most posit, right? It's that kind of thing where, did it really happen that way? Well, maybe kind of if you speak to a certain person from a certain point of view. And I like that. I like the fact. Now, if you're a lore hound, that's annoying, but I think it's a feature when things are contradictory, because they both can be real. And guess what? It's my fucking game, right? It's your game. So you get to decide what's real or not. And I think people fail to realize that when you use a Grimchild, hey. Oh, okay, I'll get to it. You said I had the page earlier. Yeah, I did. The children of Osiris are very closely related to that. Did I pass it by? Because I don't. Are they in alphabetical? They're not in alphabetical order. There we go. And hold on. Let's do this right. Let's see if we can get the I. There we go. Let's get the I up here. There it is. There we go. Let's pull her head up just a little bit more. Matter of fact, three-eyed vampires. How you doing? How you doing? History says absolutely revolutionized everything in RPGs, and I'm surprised anybody gives an F about any D&D rules at all anymore. Yeah, you know what? Ever since Hasbro shot themselves in the foot, a lot of other game systems are drawing a lot of attention, and us old grognards just remember. There's a weirdness about like us old folks and you youngins out there, in terms of like we've seen this before, and there's a reason why games like Vampire, the whole White Wolf line, all the Cthulhu games. Trying to think of something else that's ancient, that Traveler, science fiction. Some of these games have been around forever, and there's a reason why they captured our hearts, and there's so many people devoted to it, for various reasons. But I think for Vampire, this is one of the reasons where both the mechanics and the lore of the game and the mechanics mesh so well together that when someone says, I want to play in a storyteller game, they know what you mean. And the dice, if you are a dice fanatic, a math fanatic, it mathematically fits into what the game is expecting you to do. And I like that. Unless you ignore the rules. If you ignore humanity and you ignore the part of the game that mechanically features in the game, and if you ignore that, then you're just walking around as superhero vampires, just draining people whenever you want and never scared of anything. But if you play the game as intended, not necessarily using every rule all the time, but if you play the game as intended, it's pretty brutal. It really sets you up for a lot of failure and a lot of like folding arms, pouty lip, like, damn, I can't get ahead. And it's very much like that. Well, as well as making you feel like you're a badass at the same time. Yeah, Sale says, yeah, to be fair, working behind people's backs is pretty much a insert clan here thing to do. Insert every clan. Yeah, yeah. As a matter of fact, it's a lot of preemptive striking, right? Like you're an immortal. If you live in the world with other immortals, every time they gain more power than you threatens your life. So, yeah. It is told that 8 Salubri are still around, but how many are really around is up to debate. Yeah, because their asses are hiding because somebody tried to wipe them out. Yep. Now everybody goes to Woodwat's channel and watches Asimite video. You can thank me later. Yeah, you don't want to play that. Yeah, you don't want to be with the Asimites, especially when they turn against you. It's like it's like John Wick or what's the other one? What was the Batman Begins when he turned against the Ninja Clan and they all came after him. I bet Salubri do their best to spread wrong information to mess with the search of the Tremere. Yes, they are. Changeling is the worst one, I think, in terms of contradictions. Each edition basically contradicts the last one, and Defay basically has no connection to Changeling. Yeah, I agree with that one. I like Changeling. I like because the Dark Ages Changeling really doesn't have much to do with the modern day, modern urban landscape Changeling. Yeah, it doesn't have much to do with that. Grim? Hey, Grim. But most people, when we play, tended to forget to track humanity, or when later paths or roads came out, would just start embracing being a monster. But I would leave our sessions feeling bad. Like I told you, there were people who just ignored the whole humanity thing. Grimchild goes on to say, oh yeah, I remember D&D in the mid-90s going downhill big time when TSR started going downhill. Yep, before WotC bought them. Then it felt like WotC saved D&D until Hasbro bought WotC. Yep, we've seen this before. Gray hairs, we've seen this before. We also know how to survive the changes, right? We know Fantasy D20 does not belong to Hasbro any longer. It really never did. And the OSR has always been held as a separate entity from Dungeons and Dragons, Lamentations of the Flame Princess, Old School Essentials, Swords and Sorcery, DCC. God damn, my brain is just, woof. I mean to say that, but my brain is being jumbled with so many different iterations that I can't get them all out. My mouth is moving slower than my brain is. I apologize for that. But my point is, we already know how to handle this. We just keep playing the game that we want to play, and we don't have to hand money over to a large conglomerate. We already know how to handle this. So 5th edition players may be feeling like they're just like, well, I'm out, the 2024 books suck, and I don't know what I want to do, and blah, blah, blah. Well, what we've always done. Play the game you want to play, right? Yeah. DBJ, someday you should really watch The True Blood, which I haven't seen, and marvel about how they turned absolutely everything in World of Darkness except Mummy into a successful TV show. Yes, it had Changeling. Yes, it had Wraith. Wow. I know there was a short-lived British and American version. I think it was called Human or Being Human or something like that, where there was a household. It was a ghost, a werewolf, a vampire, and they lived together. I don't know the names. If you want, D&D was still sweet in the 90s on the strength of Planescape and Dark Sun alone. I do agree with that. If you want to ignore humanity, play a Sabbath game and have the whole pack use paths instead. Yeah, I know it's late. I know I'm still going. She's like, just still going? Yeah. Technically, I'm off today. My day off revolves through the week. So off Monday, next week off Tuesday, etc. That kind of thing. So, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I know it went long. You don't have to stay here this long, but I did want to express the love I have for these games, and it all starts in a very strange way with this very simple, very iconic character sheet, and how much this character sheet, not the design of the character sheet, but what's on it, has shaped our view of role playing, and how so many other games have pulled from this. Sorry, I'm trying not to have it click so much. How this one simple character sheet. Why isn't? Man, I wish I could just grab it and without clicking it. Anyway, yeah, really cool. Why it's captured so many people's hearts. Why indie games, I feel, have pulled from this game, where you have things like inspiration points to allow you successes and how to gain those back, and how the mechanics reinforce the play style. Yes, we've had people who just completely ignored all the humanity portion down here and played the superhero game. But if I was going to suggest them do that, play Exalted. Where's the original book? They literally made a whole nother game path and system for those who wanted to roll buckets of dice, which is cool. It's still cool to do that, but yeah, there was a reason why they did that. So, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Is it called Being Human? Yeah, Being Human was the title of the show, and I know there was a for those of us here in the States, of course, there are BBC shows, and I know there's an American show. I don't think it lasted too long. People seem to forget TTRPGs aren't video games and don't really go out of date. Yeah, right? There are no graphics to worry about or game engines to improve. Also, despite the fact that the Pinkertons were sent to someone's home, there are also actually no gaming police that are going to take your books away from you or your dice. The game doesn't go out of style. It doesn't age out of style. You may feel like you don't belong to a group that still plays the game, but you can always play the game forever. Mary was designed as a caretaker from an orphanage with her domain around her orphanage. I love that. Interesting how much her mind would change when the humanity goes down the drain. Ooh. I'm assuming getting slapped on the back of the hand with a ruler was the minimum of the character design about that. Wow. There was both the British and then the US remake of Being Human. Yeah. Yep. I haven't watched True Blood, which also, before all those shows started, there was a TV show called Kindred the Embraced. Lasted one season, and unfortunately our main character died in that television show. It was Kindred the Embraced, and it was literally based around Vampire the Masquerade, of the different clans of vampires, and they literally reference Toreador, Gangrel, Ventrue, Bruja in that show. Hard to find it on streaming services and DVD, but you can find it. It's called Kindred the Embraced television show. Yep. Humanity also would change drastically how you interact with the world all the time. Yeah, humanity would change all the time. Day off, so tomorrow's the real Monday for you. Yeah, it sure is. Yeah. Also, you can create strongly different characters to the point setups. Absolutely. Some aspects in games do age, however. I would agree with you in the sense of sometimes as time goes on, first mechanically, we understand more with percentages and probabilities and things of that nature. And are there things written in the vampire game that you look back and aged badly, like in terms of the lore and the flavor text and stuff like that? Yeah, far easier to change that than to burn the books and say it doesn't matter, right? So do I agree with that? Yes. Right. There's some aspects, if you go back and read it, and you're for example, I think in Mage they mention It existed at a time when 1 terabyte of information was a fantasy and a pipe dream. Yeah, they're just like, I got a 20 gig hard drive, and we were just like, what? Now people just, randomly go over. I think I have an unused terabyte hard drive down here somewhere, and it's just sitting there. Matter of fact, I need to plug it in. Now that I think about it, but yeah. Yeah, there are some bad takes and stereotypes in some old games that didn't age well. I agree with that. Take a Sharpie and don't use it. That's what I would say. Yeah, but that is a topic that opens up quite a can of worms. And that is a reason why some game companies will not bring back the game that you really like, because they would have to, in order to market it to their shareholders, in order to market it and explain it to their shareholders, they would have to edit it so much, which is why Black Sun, Dark Sun will never be created by a large major conglomerate. You'll have to play it. First, you'll have to make up your own rules, or basically, people have made hacks of it. Just go find a hack and play that. So, yeah, she was mentally designed around the wish to having a family of her own. Sadly, after the embrace, it became impossible in a way. Aw. Well, yes, in a way, but like it would be like a classic hag wanting to create a family, but there's a dark twist to it. Yeah. Oh my God, Kindred the Embrace was so bad, but also good. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Yeah, I'm very much with you on that one. It was pretty bad. It came across as a television writer who read Vampire the Masquerade for the first time. For the first time, it did come across that way. Yeah, the world is easily changeable if need be than the rules' inner workings. I agree. And mind you, this is how I would rationalize it. As we change, human beings and society changes and whatnot, I would change the world the same way. Guess what? People don't think that way anymore. Oh, those people got killed off. Jason Smith. Myrna, no more than you too. Yeah, Clan Ravnos is problematic in all of its depictions. Let's not talk about. I'm not going to mention their original origins. I'm not going to use the word. It begins with a G. But yes, and they've tried to clean it up, but it's difficult to get rid of that garbage. Although, to be honest with you, this is weird to say. For me, it makes sense to have that in the world, because the people that would be associated with the Ravnos would be looked that way by other people, wrongly, but it makes sense if that makes sense, right? Like, yeah, they're wrong. Yeah, my father jokes my USB stick has more space on it than our first PC. Yep. Yep. Hard drives are made. You learn something new every day. If you're me, that is. Hard drives, they're technocracy. Yep. Technocracy 1. Yeah. A lot of the Eastern themed books were also very homogenized. Yep, typically around China, like he said in Kindred of the East. Do I still have my Kindred of the East book? But yes, you are very correct. Me personally, I would include the lore as this is how they used to think kind of thing. And maybe some of those ancients, because you got to have bad guys, right? So some of those ancients would definitely be that way. I mean, imagine vampiric age of exploration in our own world. There were lots of people who just basically thought everybody else was beneath them. And whether that was true or not, it was true in their head. So yeah, Mary's was more the compassionate sound in the orphanage that wished they had a better future as she used to have. Wow, that's awesome. I like stories like that, like character creations like that. The Blood Brothers are a mess and a good reminder why Tremere and Suicide better never work together. Yeah. Flesh shaping. Yeah, that's a horrible power. That's in the hands of a creative player. horrible power. I hated the ethnic tie-ins in the clans. As somebody's had a similar issue. Werewolf did the same thing. So before we get out, so for those who don't know, the clans had ethnic and regional tie-ins into real world ethnicities and cultures around the world. Because werewolf did the same thing, where if you were a werewolf from the north, you were from Viking-like blood and had that kind of get of Fenris, right? You were from that. Whereas if you were a indigenous person here in the States, you were from the Wendigo, right? And so yeah. Thank. I can't get another comment up there. Yeah, gotta go. Love you, DPJ. Love you guys too. Thank you so much for letting me express my love and adoration for many of these tabletop role-playing games, and sometimes even go in the past and go like, man, do I remember that, and and have some fun, and basically from my point of view explain to everybody else like, why is this even important? Why is this a thing? And so I'm glad you guys have some fun and hang out and maybe explain to somebody else like, oh, that's why. Stuff. So guys, have a great one. I'll see you later. Peace and tranquility. And thank you very much for even sticking this long. Of course, hell, shit. If you're anybody that stuck this long in this hour and 42-minute dissertation, give a like, share, subscribe, call to action. Matter of fact, we'll take us out on our call to action. Guys, have a great one. I'll see you later.